Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us at the Cups and Advantage series hosted by Gameplan, the coach edition. So my name is Sophie. I'm the Gameplan advisor at INS Quebec. So here's my nice accent. You're all muted for the duration of the presentation. Please continue to keep your mic off during the session. But if you do have any question, you can put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And then the question, they can remain anonymous if you wish, or you can put your name as you wish. You can also upvote other questions if you have the same to avoid duplication. I will shortly present you Patrick Chi of Financial Literacy Council to discuss the financial wellness for coach, which I think it's very interesting topic. So Patrick is a certified financial planner who joined the Financial Literacy Council in 2010 as an integral part of the operation and client service management team. He helps his clients in the areas of cash flow, debt management, tax, estate planning, risk management planning, investment management, pretty much everything, right? He helps engineer, design, and implement financial solutions with particular emphasis on growing wealth and profitability for his clients, which includes professional clients and self-employed ones. Prior to that, which is the fun fact of the day, Patrick was an aircraft engineer for Original Airliner. And he still, meanwhile, enjoyed being active and venturing from cycling sports, outdoor activities such as hiking, traveling, exploring, and trying new things. So for tonight, your host, Patrick Chi.
Thank you, Sophie, for the introduction. I want to thank Gameplan, CSI Pacific, and Calgary. It's always a pleasure for the Financial Literacy Council, or FLC, to be invited back to speak to you. It's an honor. I'm excited to talk to coaches. It's been a while, and we've been asked to speak to coaches 5 years ago. This session is specifically made for you in response to the current pandemic. Today's session is called Financial Literacy 101. What's your financial game plan? Sophie went through a few housekeeping rules already. So just to let you know, the running time for this session today is 45 minutes. And the Q&A, as Sophie mentioned, you can type in the Q&A box. We'll keep to the end, and we'll leave about 15 minutes to answer any questions. This is our agenda for today with the four learning objectives. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and a little bit about your journey and the meat and potatoes of the session. Who are we and what are our services for coach? A quick history of Financial Literacy Council. It started off as a student club back in 1999, teaching financial life skills. We provide financial education, today's session, and financial planning, where I spend majority of my time. For over the last 20 years, we serve in various communities, these such as the schools, and the healthcare, physicians, associations, such as Gameplan and CSI. I'm supported by my team. I actually have typically a partner in crime. His name is Louis Chan. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us because he just got married this past weekend. So quite a journey for him. My name is Patrick Chi. For those who missed the introduction, I'm a certified financial planner, and I've been with financial literacy for 10 years. It's been a journey working with Gameplan and CSI for the past 7 years. Throughout those 7 years, I met with many athletes, coaches, some who have retired, some have become coaches like yourself, or some into their next career. Louis and I, we look forward to getting to know you and your story if you take advantage of the private one-on-one appointments that's available to you after today's session. For the coach's life journey, one of the things that we enjoy is really to listen to the individuals and journey alongside with them through their milestones. One of the questions that I quite often ask them is, think about a major decision that you had to make in life, and did it have an impact on money? Well, if we use my colleague Louis as an example, who got married this past weekend, it does have a big financial impact. Weddings today, it's not cheap. Just like how I got married, I have 2 kids. the financial impact for being a parent. So whether for yourself as a coach, a parent, somebody that's deciding to go back to school, or even I've seen athletes that transition to different sport, they all have a financial impact. Over the 7 years, I've learned the journey of the life cycles of what they go through, and we help coaches make choices and navigate through their journey. And sometimes with coaches and athletes, they may not be the conventional or traditional, the choices that they have to make for the average Canadian. We're here to help you. Our goal is to help you navigate through that journey. When we teach, we like to set the framework using the financial house. We're going to focus on the 4 rooms of the 9-room financial house. And that's the spending plan, which sets the foundation or framework, debt reduction, tax, and retirement and savings. My door is always open, so should you want to talk about the other rooms that we're not covering today, we can discuss that further in the Q&A or during the one-on-one. Now let's focus on what COVID has impacted Canadians for a lot, which is their income. And that will be learning objective number 1, knowing the available income sources during COVID-19. You should have been sent a COVID guide, which helps you navigate through the available federal and provincial measures for individuals and business owners. For a lot of the meetings that I go through and planning, a lot of them that apply is the CERB, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, and for those that are in school, the Canadian Emergency Student Benefit. Knowing these different sources of income and government aid will help you get through these times. So for one of the coaches that I work with, pre-COVID, they were having their full-time work and coaching, and they had side hustle income, which they developed over the years prior as an athlete. Post-COVID, because their coaching did get cut funding, due to funding, they're receiving the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. They continue to have their side hustle, although it did dip a little bit, but they did pick it up with some part-time job. Knowing post-COVID the available sources, now we're going to look at, as we transition into cash flow management and debt in these unprecedented times. Quite often when we talk about managing cash flow, people think of budget. And budget tends to communicate with restrictions, or I can't spend my money on certain things. It's good to start thinking about it differently and start about talking about a spending plan, creating a spending plan, which is more empowering to have those healthy spending habits. When we teach spending habits, I like to talk about the 3 Ps. What's on your plate? What are your priorities? And what needs pruning? Your plate is your role as a coach, as a mentor, a parent, or as a partner. Your priorities is what are your responsibilities related to your roles as a coach or a parent, partner. And having healthy spending is like having healthy relationships. Is you need to have boundaries. So not walls, but gates. Allow the good habits in and then the bad habits out. We all have gone through habits that we had to prune that's not aligned with their roles and responsibility. We're going to use a case study for that individual as a coach. So for their typical non-COVID income is coaching. That's what they earned with their side hustles. And in this case, their side hustle was part-time work and the CERB for a total combined taxable income of $62,000. Note, when CERB does run out, it will be EI. After deductions and taxes for this individual, they earned a net income for the year of $47,700, or a monthly net income just shy of $4,000. Now, when we talk about creating a spending plan, the individuals I meet, I get them to complete an Excel spending plan, which I can send you after today's session. And one of the feedback that I get quite often is it's a fact find for them that they didn't realize how much they were spending in other certain categories or areas of their lives that weren't important to them or aligned to their goals. When we go through that Excel spending plan, it has a recommended percentages. It's the rule of thumb. Knowing for maybe coaches and typically athletes I've met a lot in the past is their food will be higher, maybe travel because they're out-of-pocket expenses due to funding cut. But then they don't spend as much in the other areas, which they don't need, maybe clothing, savings for this period. So in terms for a dollar amount, this is the example. When they go through this exercise, they realize that, oh yeah, I can actually cut down a lot in certain areas and be able to actually save more to reach my goals. Another way to help you keep track or be aware is using apps. There's a popular app called Mint. There's other apps, Need a Budget or Every Dollar. A lot of the also major financial institutions now have their own built-in app that tracks how much you spend. Another way to keep it simple as a baseline is the 50-30-20 rule. 50% to essentials, which are living expenses such as rent or mortgage, transportation or food. And then 30% is flexible, whether it's vacation, gifts, luxury items like lifestyle stuff. And the remaining 20% is financial goals, saving for the rainy day fund and emergency fund that we teach, which is one of the rooms in the financial house, to savings for retirement or saving to buy a home, or could be paying down debt. For some of you, you may be saying that, oh, well, I have dual income, so this is what an example that way would look like. So whether you're single or have a partner with dual income, when we have healthy money management habits, this leads to better decisions when it comes around to borrowing money. Borrowing in unprecedented times, it's important to keep with the end in mind, because not all debt is equal. So it's important to make sure you compare your options and educate yourself the options that are available for you. With the programs around there through COVID, whether financial institutions or with the government, there's deferral programs. Note that you still have to pay your loan at the end of the day. So it's important to review your options against your circumstances. And that's where we talked about doing an inventory checklist of the available different sources of income, knowing what your expenses are and obligations, and then also around the time frame that you would pay that loan off if you're going to take on a loan. And also communicate that debt who will affect with. Because some of them I met, they may be in a fortunate situation where it may be a family member that helps them out. Our next learning objective is keeping more of what you earn through tax planning. So having a base a foundation of managing cash flow and debt, how do we keep more of what we earn through tax planning? One of the things that I like to teach is cash cows versus cash pigs. This will go through our later slides too. Cash cows are money that you make, and it appreciates in assets or produces passive income opportunities. So these are things like investments, or Sophie shared with me earlier that she bought a triplex, real estate. So that's great. That can produce income, passive income for her. Education. And other, even starting a business. Cash pigs are things that take away your money, depreciates in value, destroys income passive opportunities. Now, I'm not saying that not to spend in cash pigs, because we do enjoy the nice things in life, but just choose more cash cows than cash pigs at the end of the day. You practice this discipline and habit, you'll be well on your way to effective money management and have a healthy spending plan. So with the different types of cash cow in terms of side hustles, is your side hustle taxable? This is what I get asked a lot when I have meetings with coaches and athletes. Before we dive into that, in terms of the various taxable income side hustles, it's important to know in Canada how you are taxed as a Canadian. I'm going to use British Columbia, that's where I'm from, and the federal tax rates combined, marginal, as an example. Shows here, the more taxable income that you earn, the more tax you'll pay. So when it comes to choosing your side hustles, you may think about what are taxable and non-taxable. The more common taxable side hustles that I come across in these meetings is consulting income, sponsorship, additional coaching on the side, whether it's private, speaking engagement, commission salary, and the list goes on. Note that if you do earn taxable side hustles, taxes are not taken off, and it's important for planning wise to pre-save for that when tax season comes. Some of the more common non-taxable side hustles that I come across is fundraising, gift, donation, if you're a nationally carded athlete prior, the AAP, and most bursaries and awards are non-taxable. If you have further questions, you can ask me and then I can answer them at the end. Did you know for your taxable side hustle, you might be eligible to write off expenses? Some of the more common eligible expenses are listed here. It's important to always check and confirm with a tax professional, whether an accountant or a certified financial planner, in terms of the eligible expenses. The beauty for being self-employed is you get to earn your income, spend it on expenses that are related to your business and deduct it, and then pay taxes. So this is the T2125 government form for self-employed. If you're an incorporated individual, it's a financial statement. Again, if you have further questions, we can answer them at the end. So what if you're not a self-employed individual? Well, if you're an employee, did you know for some employers, they can cover legitimate out-of-pocket work-related expenses? This is the T2200 government form. Listed there is the more common ones that you may be eligible to claim. Note your employer must approve and sign off on that T2200 form, and there are certain rules that apply. Now that we've highlighted of how you keep more of what you earn, we're going to look at how to make that money that you save work harder for you by looking at the 3 pillars of savings. So this will lead to our last learning objective, the 3 pillars of saving and investing. When it comes to investing, what's motivating to your saving or investing? We don't save for the sake of saving. There's a goal in mind when we save. What is that ultimate goal for? We need to learn to adopt what I said earlier, begin with the end in mind, where there's a mind map that becomes a very important tool to help you and your partner discuss your expectations and goals and intentions. This will also help you stay focused on your spending plan to reach your goals. For those that are saving towards for retirement, I teach the rule of 4%. If you know that you need $50,000 per year or $4,100 per month by the time you retire to maintain the lifestyle, the rule of 4% is dividing that 50,000, which equates to 1.25% by 1.25 million, my apologies, in capital. Note, this may be a high number, but it will come from different sources. One, quite often I see working with retirees is the capital or equity from their home from downsizing, personal savings, and eligible government benefits. And then if you're fortunate, some of you may have or had or will have in the future employer-sponsored programs, which we'll cover a bit more in our later slides. This is where we are in the financial house, the retirement savings. And we're going to dive deeper into what are the 3 pillars. To get from your working years from the left to the right of your retirement years, we need to be aware of the 3 main pillars available for you. The number 1 on the first pillar on the left is the government programs. The middle, employer sponsor program, and then your personal, which will focus most of our time for the rest of the session. For the government pillar, know that there are 3 programs out there. Now for Quebec, it's going to be a little bit different, but they do have a CPP equivalent. I believe it's called QPP. For the Canada Pension Plan, the maximum you can expect to receive monthly based on currently is $1,100. For old age security, it's $613, and guaranteed income supplement is up to $898. The average Canadian in 2019 receives about $1,200, just shy of $1,300. So that would reduce from the $4,100 that you would need to make up for your retirement income. For those who are fortunate to have an employer-sponsored program, some employers help their employees plan for retirement. There are 2 flavors. There's the defined benefit plan, which is becoming more rare. Though most are the public pension, you work for the government or in the healthcare sector. If you have this type of defined benefit pension plan, you will know what you expect to receive at retirement because they guarantee that. The other plan, the defined contribution plan, you know what's going in, but you don't know how much you'll have at retirement depending on how it's invested in the market. And this is where most employers that do offer some sort of pension plan, known as group RSPs. On the last pillar is the personal savings plan. They break down generally between the 8. So if you're a previous athlete, there's the amateur trust. But for the purpose of today, we'll focus on the TFSA's RSPs. But there is real estate. There is the Registered Education Savings Plan, or the Registered Disability Savings Plan, which a lot of Paralympians would qualify for. If they contribute $1, the government will match actually $3 towards their retirement. There's non-registered insurance savings plans and business for self-employed. For the TFSA's RSPs, quite often I get asked, what is the difference? I'm going to go high level in terms of the difference between the 2, and then we'll actually break down which is better for as a case study. For TFSAs, the contribution currently for 2020 is $6,000 and lifetime maximum is $69,500. For RSPs, to be able to contribute into RSP, you have to earn taxable income to grow room. In 2019, it's 18%, up to a maximum of $27,230. Carry forward room for TFSAs, it carries forward indefinitely at this time, while for RSPs, you have until age 71 for those that know. Maybe your parents, what they call RIF, a Registered Retirement Income Fund, they're forced to draw out their retirement savings, whether they need it or not. For contribution, TFSAs, it's after tax dollars. So whatever is the deduction of taxes, what you have net in your pocket that allows you to contribute into a tax-free savings account. For RSPs, it's pre-tax dollars. Meaning that there is a tax deductibility, and that is a great effective tax planning strategy. Versus for TFSAs, there's no tax deductibility. The tax treatment on the growth of the investments, TFSAs is 100% tax-free, versus for RSPs is tax deferred, meaning that when you contribute in the RSP, while it's in there, you don't have to pay tax. But at retirement, we start drawing out the investment, it is taxable or added to your taxable income from all sources. Knowing that you have to pay taxes when it comes out, which is better for you. So we're going to use this example. You have $3,000 after tax to invest. Should you do a TFSA or an RSP? Well, let's work it out. What the difference will be at age 72, 42 years away from now. Both individuals, in this case, invested one to a TFSA, the other to an RSP, both $3,000. They're both in the same marginal tax rate and the same rate of return. For the RSP, yes, they do get the tax refund and pocket to spend. But at age 72, they will have to pay $2,100 in taxes based on 20% tax bracket at retirement, which means it leaves them with just shy, a little over $8,000 left to spend. versus for the TFSA, they get to spend this, have the full amount to spend and non-taxable. So you may have heard of compounding interest, Albert Einstein, eighth wonder of the world, doubling that, but tax has a negative effect on our savings for the future. So you'll see on the left column there, compounding interest, doubling it, what the effect will be over that period. But equally, it's important, again, keeping the end in mind, the tax effect. So it's very important to where we save. And quite often working with a lot of the individuals I meet with, I do suggest that TFSA is actually a great retirement savings tool because you won't be affected by tax because some government benefits at retirement you do lose as seniors if your taxable income is too high, which the RSPs can trigger. Knowing the different programs out there, what should you invest in those RSPs or TFSA? I like to use the analogy of cups. TFSA is one cup, RSP is another cup. In a cup, you can put different liquids, and those liquids are the different eligible investments that can go in there. So what are some of those eligible investments? These are more common ones. On the left side is the safer, lower risk, lower return of savings account, guaranteed income certificates, bonds. On the right side is more risk. So higher risk, higher reward, whether it is shares of private companies, public companies, mutual funds, seg funds, real estate investment trusts, to name a few. They are definitely more volatile. And if you have invested your money and gone through COVID earlier in March, you would have seen how your investments have dropped. So it's important to, when it comes around to building your investment portfolio, to have a strategy, a game plan. I like to use the food analogy here. The rice dish is your core holding. For you, maybe it's the potatoes or spaghetti. The side dishes here is Korean side dishes. It's the exploratory or the higher risk, higher reward type of investments, whether it's in specific sectors, like in technology. Example is the Zoom platform. It just skyrocketed in March. To different geographies. So they're more specific. Another analogy that I use when I go through savings and investing and building an investment portfolio is using the hockey analogy. With hockey back playing, and you have your offense and defense, and the defense would be on the left side, the safer type of investments. Those are savings accounts, GICs, bonds, insurance savings plans. Where on the offense, more risk-taking would be those stocks and mutual funds, ETFs, and such, real estate. When it comes to investing, there's 4 tips that we teach. And 3 of those will cover the strategy called dollar cost averaging. So those 4 tips are starting early, investing regularly, staying invested, and diversifying. For dollar cost averaging, it's making it automatic. Sophie earlier mentioned she read the Wealth of Barber. He does talk about making it automatic. So that is dollar cost averaging, where an investment technique, you invest a fixed dollar amount on a regular basis, whether it's every paycheck, every 2 weeks, bi-monthly, or every month, which then average out your purchase price. And over a longer period of time, you end up with more units, because as you've gone through with COVID, it's very hard to determine when's the right time to buy. So making it automatic takes out the guessing work. And then the last one for diversification, you may have heard, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spreading the risk over different investments, different asset classes, which talked about some in equities, fixed income, geography, or sectors. Now, these are the basic tips to investing approach. We do dive in deeper when it comes to a portfolio construction and whatnot. And if you have further questions, again, I can answer those in the Q&A or through the private one-on-one appointments. hopefully you're able to take away some few nuggets to learn and implement. If you don't remember, to end my presentation, these are the 5 key takeaways. Know your three Ps. What's on your plate? What are your priorities? And what needs to be pruned? Choose more cash cows than cash pigs, and maximize your eligible deductible expenses for your side hustle if you're self-employed, or if you're an employee, see if you're eligible, your employer is eligible to deduct some of those expenses that you incur as an employee. Know your 3 pillars of savings. Keep more of what you earn tax effectively, and overall developing healthy money habits. What I mentioned earlier, if you do want to take advantage of the private one-on-one appointment, you will be either meeting with myself or my colleague, Louis Chan. So basically, we would address your top 3 concerns, and we would provide a impartial advice, a second opinion. We write a financial prescription, and then we provide integrated financial tax and retirement estate planning for you and or your family. It's no different than if you were to go to a doctor, you write that medical prescription. It's up to you where you choose to implement it. So for us, Financial Literacy Council, we can implement it for you. So we are also call it in-house pharmacy. But if there's somebody that you trust to work with, you can feel free to implement to them. My contact is here, but my contacts will also be provided in the feedback survey that will be sent out by Game Plan for you to fill out. I just want to thank you for your time, and hopefully I was able to increase your financial literacy rate, and we'll close it off and the end here with Q&A.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So, already a question. All right, Len, with all countries printing so much money to support their COVID-19 program, it looks like we are heading for a recession or war. Where should we put our savings for the long term? Yep. Would gold be a good edge? As they say, bonds will be worth almost nothing with a lot of government spending billions, plus equity will be very risky with the uncertainty. That was a big word for a French person, of the pandemic.
Yeah. No, that's very valid. You know, if we, not to look at past history, but we can use that example in the last financial crisis in 2008, 2009, you know, when we were in it, no one was that, because they were printing money also. If you lived through that, they had this Ben Bernanke from the States in the helicopter just printing and throwing out money. So this is obviously to prevent businesses, particularly small businesses, from going bankrupt, insolvency. But you know, we will get out of recession, and we have seen the recovery. In fact, if you're a savvy investor, like we recovered almost the quickest in history, which is about six months. So there is actually room for growth, and businesses are continuing to grow. But for long-term wise, you know, again, it's knowing what your risks are and what you have the appetite for risk in terms for the core holding versus the side dishes. Because long-term wise, investments are going to grow, businesses are still going to continue. So, and I think it's just being more cautious, right? And having that discipline of investing regularly. So if they're currently putting away monthly, regularly, continuing to do so, because we're going to see more, call it road bumps along the way. And with those bumps along the way, you get to take advantage of those next steps, right?
Yeah, because when you're buying continuously, you might be losing, but you're buying low also, yeah, so you're kind of growing at the same time. So, right?
Yeah, it's like shopping on sale, right? If one item is normally $100 and now it's 50% off, like what it was doing, you're for that same $100 being able to buy 2 of those items, right? And a lot with investors, a lot their heavy focus on the market value. You know, one of the things that we teach about is, you know, are you investing into things that pay monthly income, like distributions? So, because valuation is one thing, like for you, Sophie, owning that triplex, if you're so focused on the value of your triplex, what it is on, that's the wrong way of looking at it, because you should be looking at, well, I bought this triplex, I own the other 2 units, but I'm also receiving income from it, right? which help you serve your goal. So, in building wealth. In terms for gold would be a good hedge. If you heard the news, gold actually reached all-time high and reached over $2,000 per ounce. So it has been a safe haven, and I've seen past crises where investors do fled to bullion, I would say. And it is a good strategy that we do implement for our clients, but there are also risks to it because it is very specific in that asset class. So that's why it's always good to be diversified. And yeah, you're in a unique situation where bonds yields in terms of the rate that they're paying is low. But during COVID, actually, there was a lot of price discrepancies because with a lot of business that have debt, they had to restructure it, right? So it is over the years, average investor had to increase more equities to get the same rate of return. So, and again, it's knowing that what is your risk profile and having a game plan and sticking to it. So hopefully that answers your question, Len. Thank you for that.
Does anyone else have a questions, a general questions or personal questions? Question about a friend. Say if I have an anonymous question here. Say if a person has saving in a TFS mutual funds account and that is equal to the saving, would you, and that is equal to the savings, would you suggest they pay off the debt with those funds and start from scratch?
Yes. One thing I do get asked a lot is, should I invest or should I pay down debt? Right? So we want to look at what is your rate of return on investment, right? After all fees and expenses. So that's one thing that's very important because sometimes when you look at your statement, it may or may not factor those things. Right? If your rate of return on investment after expenses is higher than your interest rate expense for borrowing, then it still makes sense to invest. But if it is equal, that would be a personal choice because I do know some individuals, they're debt averse. So if they feel more comfortable and can sleep at night to pay down debt, then yes. It's just that now you're taking a cash cow, right, liquidating it to pay down debt. So it would be dependent on the individual situation. Again, one, whether they're comfortable with debt. If they feel more comfortable paying down debt and then starting from fresh, then at least, hey, they don't have that burden hanging over their shoulder.
So mental health first. And then looking at like the interest on each side, like are you making more interest than you're paying more interest, and then
exactly. And if it's, we got to look at remember debt too. So I didn't teach on debt about like good debt and bad debt, because there are good debt and bad debt. So in this case, I believe, Sophie, you probably have a mortgage, so that's good debt, right? That you bought an investment that helps appreciate, that typically will appreciate value and growth, but also generates income for you. So in this case, you still have that game plan because you have an obligation to pay your debt, right? So then it would be a healthy balance between saving and paying down the debt.
But the debt I borrowed from Big Joe is not a good debt.
Big Joe.
Big Joe folks. Right. All right. Interesting questions. And know also that if you're interested in booking a private appointment, you can see here in the webinar chat that you can do so by clicking on the feedback survey. You can then have a private appointment with anybody at FLC, I guess.
Yeah, myself or Louis Chen. Yeah, and we can do the analysis for your unique situation, what makes sense for them.
Yeah, because this is hard, the open questions about finance, because it's all so unique to every
Yes.
environment and situation, and provinces too, right? Can you provide advice for any province, or is it
Yeah, I can
specific?
provide general advice. For tax advice, I would not be qualified for Quebec because their tax was a little bit different. But for people from Quebec, in terms of strategies, habits,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, definitely, yeah. So I do have clients that I work with that are across Canada. So
Okay. Perfect.
they tend to be in the West Coast, or Ontario seems to be. So
Perfect. All right. Well, if there's no more question, uh, yeah, Alex. So in regards to the private appointment, can we pick a much later date, because I would like to review this presentation with my
oh
wife.
yes, oh yes. Actually,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to be off for 2 weeks, so actually works out to if we can meet in September or onwards.
Yeah.
We can definitely look to schedule a time that works for you and your wife. So because of COVID, the beauty for technology, we can do it from the comfort of our home through video conferencing. So, and I actually have more materials and slides that I would go through, and I can share my screen with me when I meet with you and your wife.
Perfect. Any more questions or comments? I'll just find if they're writing right now. Alex says thank you. Okay, perfect. So thank you very much to all for joining our session. And thank you to you, Patrick. We really appreciate your sharing your expertise on finance, wellness, and specifically building those presentations targeted for athlete or for coach. Your feedback is important for our team. So when you're going to be closing your window, you're going to have a pop-up survey. If you could please answer those small questions. It'll take like 30 seconds, and then feel free to connect with us at info@mygameplan.ca if you have any questions. Any other comments, Patrick and Vasha, or any people on the team?
No, I just want to thank you, Game Plan, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to meeting with the individuals that, or myself or Lewis. I look forward to meet with those individuals that take advantage of the private appointment. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good night, all.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.